Cell division. The first thing you need to know about cell division is why cells actually divide. So there are a couple of reasons why cells divide. Cells divide in order to make new cells for growth, repair, or reproduction. So whenever you have a cut on your arm, in order to heal that cut, the cells on the outside of the cut divide in order to fill in the cut with new cells, and those new cells will form a scar. Whenever you're growing, your body divides the original cells to make more cells to fill up your growing body. And when a cell needs to reproduce, your body makes eggs and sperm in order to help us sexually reproduce. There's a few things that need to happen before a cell divides. In particular, we're going to talk about DNA replication. DNA replication is when a cell makes a new copy of its DNA. And if you want to learn more about DNA replication, you can see the DNA replication video. Now let's take a look at what our chromosomes look like before and after replication. So we have a few examples here. So before replication, our chromosomes are single chromosomes. You see that they're single lines or single squiggles. Now, in order to figure out if a cell has replicated its DNA, you want to look for chromosomes that look kind of like an X. Okay, so these still count as one chromosome each because they are attached to one another. So whenever the chromosomes are attached to one another, that counts as one chromosome. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 chromosomes before replication, and 1, 2, 3, 4 chromosomes after replication. The difference is that these chromosomes are now double chromosomes. They have a replicated strand of DNA next to them. Now let's talk about the difference between haploid and diploid cells. Haploid cells are cells with one of each chromosome. So they only have one of each chromosome inside of their nucleus. An example of haploid cells are sex cells. So let's look at what haploid cells actually look like. So here's a sketch of a cell, and this represents the nucleus right here. If we look at our cell, we see we have one blue chromosome, one green chromosome, one purple chromosome, and one orange chromosome. See, doesn't that correspond with our definition of a cell with one of each chromosome? So this would be a haploid cell. Now let's take a look at this cell right here. We have a nucleus, and we have a blue chromosome, purple, orange, and green. If you remember earlier, if the chromosomes are hooked together, okay, it's an X, but they're not separated, it still only counts as one chromosome. Okay, so you see we have one blue chromosome, one green, one purple, and one blue. So this cell is also haploid. Now, diploid chromosomes are a cell with two of each chromosome. So our body cells, or also known as somatic cells, are diploid cells. So your hair cells, your eye cells, your skin cells, those are all diploid. Now let's look at what these pictures actually look like. This is a sketch of a cell, and this is the nucleus. If we take a look in the nucleus, let's count the purple chromosomes. 1, 2. We have 2 orange chromosomes, 2 green chromosomes, and 2 blue chromosomes. So this has 2 of each chromosome, therefore it is diploid. Let's look at the second cell. This cell has a nucleus. Inside the nucleus we have chromosomes that have been replicated. So they look like X's. But remember, when chromosomes look like X's, they still only count as one chromosome. So we have 2 blue chromosomes, 2 purple chromosomes, 2 orange chromosomes, and 2 green chromosomes. So this is also a diploid cell. Now let's compare and contrast haploid and diploid cells. Sex cells, eggs and sperm, are diploid. Okay, so the only cells in your body that are diploid are your eggs or your sperm. Body cells, for example, liver cells, skin cells, and other cells in your body, just not your sex cells, are all diploid. A way to calculate your diploid number from your haploid number is haploid number times 2 equals your diploid number. And your diploid number divided by 2 equals your haploid number. Let's do some examples. If an alien sperm cell has 10 chromosomes, how many chromosomes will be in that alien's skin cells? So you have to decide if the cell they gave you was a haploid cell or a diploid cell. So they gave us the chromosome count in a sperm cell. So it says the sperm cell has 10 chromosomes. Sperm cells are sex cells, so they are haploid. So that means that we need to multiply by 2 to figure out how many chromosomes are in a diploid skin cell, because skin cells are diploid. So 10 times 2 equals 20. So the alien skin cells, or any of the alien's body cells, will have 20 chromosomes, because skin cells are diploid and the sperm cell is haploid. Now for our second example. A human muscle cell has 46 chromosomes. How many chromosomes will be in a human egg cell? So they gave us a muscle cell. And we know that muscle cells are body cells, and body cells are diploid. And so it has 46 chromosomes. Now, they want to know how many chromosomes are in an egg cell. Egg cells are haploid. So we're going from diploid to haploid. Therefore, we need to divide this number, 46, by 2 to get our haploid egg cell chromosome number. So 46 divided by 2 is 23. So the human egg cell has 23 chromosomes. Now let's take a closer look at the two forms of cell division. Mitosis is one form of cell division. In order to remember what mitosis makes, let's look at the letters that make up the word mitosis. Mitosis makes two cells that are the same. So whenever you see the word mitosis, you could write this out on your sheet of paper so you remember what mitosis makes. Mitosis always starts with a diploid cell, so a cell that has 2 of each chromosome. Mitosis makes 2 identical daughter cells. See? 2 cells that are the same, meaning they are identical. So we start with a diploid cell and make 2 cells that are exactly the same as the original cell. Alright. Also, mitosis makes your body cells. So whenever you need to grow or heal, you're making more body cells, therefore you're undergoing mitosis. Let's look at what mitosis actually looks like on a cellular level. Mitosis starts with prophase. In prophase, your chromosomes pack up into a condensed form called your chromosomes. Alright, so you can see your chromosomes look like little X's here. Normally your DNA is kind of in a squiggly form called chromatin that you can't see under a microscope very well. But you can see the chromosomes when they pack up during prophase. Also, our nucleus begins to break down. Our next step is when our chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. Now, middle starts with an M. That will remind you the name of this phase, metaphase. So middle, metaphase. The chromosomes have lined up in a single file line down the middle of the cell. The next thing that happens is anaphase. During anaphase, the chromosomes are moving apart. The black string that's pulling the chromosomes apart is actually called a spindle fiber, and that separates the sister chromatids in a chromosome. So apart starts with an A, and so does anaphase. The next step of mitosis is telophase. During telophase, the cells pinch apart, and a new nucleus is forming around their respective chromosomes. We can call this part where the cell pinches apart the cleavage furrow. Alright, after the cells begin to pinch apart, they eventually completely pinch apart. And that is called cytokinesis. So we end up with 2 cells, and they each have 2 of each chromosome. You see we have 2 purple, 2 green, 2 orange, okay, in the first cell and the same in the second cell. So our cells are diploid at the end. So we've made 2 diploid cells in mitosis. And just a quick snapshot in reverse, before we actually get to prophase, one thing I didn't show you is the cell before replication. So before replication, we would have had single chromosomes. Then we replicated the chromosomes to get to prophase. You see how these look like X's? Those chromosomes have been replicated. So you see our 2 cells that we've produced look exactly the same as the original parent cell. Now for meiosis, the other form of cell division. Just like we labeled the letters of mitosis, we're going to label the letters of meiosis. So meiosis makes eggs and sperm. So just like mitosis, meiosis also starts with a diploid cell. Unlike mitosis, meiosis makes 4 haploid cells. Also, meiosis doesn't make body cells, it makes gametes. Gametes are a fancy word for saying eggs and sperm. Now let's see what meiosis actually looks like on a cellular level. We first start out with prophase, and as you can see, I haven't labeled the phases. You can refer back to the mitosis earlier in the video to see what the name of these phases are. But overall, you just need to understand what meiosis is making, not particularly label the phases. So we start off with prophase. Our chromosomes have packed up inside the nucleus, and our nucleus begins to dissolve. Now, let's take a snapshot at what exactly is happening with these chromosomes here during prophase. Something special happens during meiosis. The chromosomes actually kind of lay on top of one another. As you can see, I have the orange chromosomes laying across one another, purple and green, and so on. So what's happening here is called crossing over. So they're laying across one another, hence the name crossing over. And they're trading DNA, and this makes variation happen during meiosis. So we're trading DNA amongst the chromosomes. Now, the next step is that our chromosomes line up across from one another. As you can see, we line up purple from purple, orange from orange, green from green. We call these pairs of chromosomes homologous chromosomes. So our homologous pairs line up across from one another in a double file line. Alright, then our chromosomes move apart. That would be anaphase, apart, anaphase. Then our cell begins to pinch apart. That is telophase. As you can see, we're forming a new nucleus around each set of chromosomes. Then we end up dividing the cells completely apart. We end up with 2 cells. As you can see, these cells only have 1 purple, 1 green, and 1 orange. So these are now haploid cells. Now, we're going to go through a whole other round of cell division. These cells take their chromosomes, line them up in the middle, metaphase. Okay, then the chromosomes move apart, anaphase, and then they begin to pinch apart, telophase. Finally, they completely separate, cytokinesis. So you see, we started with 1 cell and ended up with 4 cells in meiosis. And let's see if these cells are haploid or diploid. We have 1 purple, 1 green, and 1 orange in each cell. Therefore, we are making haploid cells.